Stuka Joe here, about to begin turn 6, and one error that I have to correct, and I want to thank my viewer Manchester JK for pointing the error to me. So let's go to the correction. The victory point score is at 44, but I have been counting the airfields and ports that our forces have captured. And those are not counted for victory point purposes until the end of the game. And now I know the reason for it. There is one event in the Middle East Command Events table, which is morale check, that states that if the current victory point level is positive, then we roll a die and gain a number of Flieger Corps staff points. If it is 0 or negative, we roll a die and lose that number of Flieger Corps staff points. And the reason why not to count ports and airfields is because I think the designer's intent was to base the success or failure of the morale check in relation to losses suffered by each of the sides. So if the Germans would be down on the victory point score, it would mean that they have suffered heavily compared to the Allies, and if the other situation is at hand, that the Germans have not suffered many casualties while the Allies have, and therefore our victory point score is positive, we would receive a boost in Flieger Corps points. So we will adjust the score now. We reduced the victory point score for the two airfields we've captured, Malemi and Retimo, and each one is worth 10 victory points, so the victory point score is reduced to 24. Now we subtract the value of the ports we have captured. We have captured 4 ports, and each port is worth 4 victory points: Kisamos, Kania, Suda, and Retimo. So the victory point score is reduced further to 8 victory points. And with only 8 victory points, we now begin turn number 6. Maestro Pancaldi. Here's the situation at the start of turn 6. The battle rages on around Heraklion airfield and port. And we need to take those objectives in order to have a decent chance at causing an Allied evacuation. At Retimo, we're still in control of both objectives there. And Kania is practically in our hands, except for the southern port of Sfakia, which we will attempt to take in this turn. And the dilemma here is that most of these objectives, if not all, will have to be taken with minimal air support, because we have to lower Allied morale this turn in the hopes of causing an Allied evacuation now. If we don't, we will have turn 7, but by causing an evacuation in turn 7, the Allies will not lose as many units as an evacuation on turn 6. So it mostly depends on the performance of the Luftwaffe. And our Luftwaffe units have taken a pounding. 9 of the 16 units are at half strength. That means that we will have to use most of our Flieger Corps points to refit these reduced units. And the more points we use for this purpose, the less points we have to use to influence the tactical edge in ground combat. So we start with the first phase, the Flieger Corps 11 staff point phase, we have 2 points from previous turns, so we roll 1d6. And this time the roll is a 4. And now our Flieger Corps staff points increase to 6. To the German intelligence phase, where we spend Flieger Corps points to attempt to find out what units the Allies have in those spaces where they have face-down units. Do we want to use a Flieger Corps staff point to try to find out what the Allies have in Slovakia? The reality is that we will be attacking that port anyway with the 3 closest ground units, the battalion at the White Mountains and the 2 units at Armenoy, plus 3 units to be airdropped there because of the stacking limit of 6. So we will use the staff point for other purposes, and we will not conduct any intelligence attempt die roll. And now to the German refit phase. We won't refit any of our ground units in Crete. The reason why is each ground unit refitted commits 1 air transport unit that we cannot use this turn to bring new units onto the island. We have 6 Flieger Corps staff points. We'll use 4 in refitting our reduced air units. We will refit this Heinkel and this Junkers 88 unit, as well as these 2 reduced Stuka units. And our staff point total decreases back to 2. And now we move on to the German staging phase. And before moving and committing our units to different sectors, it's important to note that these 3 ground units will be able to reach Slovakia in the tactical movement phase. And because stacking limits are 6 in this game, we will then airdrop 3 airborne units also at Slovakia. So this parachute battalion that was previously committed to be airdropped at the Iraklion sector will help out in the upcoming Battle of Slovakia, and we will place it here in the Kania sector. And we will also airdrop this battalion of the 3rd Regiment. And finally, the headquarters of the 3rd Regiment will be airdropped there also. Now at Iraklion Airfield, we will airland a unit from the 5th Mountain Division, and it will be this battalion that is an elite unit. We still have 2 units that can be transported to Crete, and we will also transport this support unit and this other mountain infantry battalion to the Kania sector. Those are the 6 units to be airdropped or airlanded this turn. Now we assign transports to each of them. Now we proceed to the German tactical movement phase. We will be moving units in the Kania sector to attack the southern port of Slovakia. We start with this unit in the White Mountains. It can move 2 spaces. It moves through the Askifoy Plain into Skafia. And now we move both of our units at Armenoy also through Askifoy Plain into Skafia. Now we will move additional units in case the attack on Skafia this turn fails, so we can follow up with an additional attack in turn 7. Move the headquarters of the Sturm Regiment 2 spaces into the White Mountains, where we also move this artillery airborne unit, which is a support unit, also into the White Mountains. And we move this battalion here at Suda through Armenoy into Askifoy Plain. Our parachute battalion at Kania moves into Suda. Our engineer unit here at Malemi Airfield moves into Kania. And the reduced anti-tank airborne unit at Malemi Airfield moves into Prison Valley. Now we move the headquarters of the 85th Regiment of the 5th Mountain Division 2 spaces into Malemi Town. And finally, this battalion Mountain Infantry Battalion through Kisamos into Malemi Airfield. It is important not to leave any airfield or port unoccupied by our forces because Allied units may be placed there during the phase where we roll on the Middle East Command events table. Now we assign our air units, and the bulk of our air forces is going to be assigned to Allied morale attacks. So we have assigned all our fighter units, Me-109s, Me-110s, the Italian bomber unit, as well as our Dornier 17s and all Stuka units to attack Allied morale, leaving us with 3 units for tactical attacks. And we assign 2 of our air units to the Kania sector to help out in the attack at Sfakia, and 1 Junkers 88 unit to attack in the Iraklion sector. And now to the German strategic air attack phase. And we have committed 13 of our 16 units to Allied morale attacks. Allied morale is at 12, and we have to reduce it as much as possible to have a decent chance at causing an Allied evacuation. And to cause an Allied evacuation, we have to roll 2 dice, a total which is higher than Allied morale. So, we have committed 13 units. With decent luck, we should bring it down 5 levels to 7, and with extraordinary luck, we may bring it down to 6. So, let's see what happens. Given the importance of this round of strategic or Allied morale attacks, we are going to film the die rolling, which I usually don't do. So I'm going to use this little tray here with a felt cushion, and it's going to be inclined. I'm going to use it as a slide to roll a die, and we will go one by one, filming each of the die rolls for each of the units. We start with the Savoia Marchetti bomber, and remember that the strategic attack factor is the leftmost number, so we need that number or less to inflict 1 hit on Allied morale. And we start with the Italian bomber unit. So we roll 1 die, and we have 1 hit. And so now the Allied strategic or morale goes down to 11. And now we move on to the Messerschmitt 109, which is at full strength. We need 1 or less. Here we go. That doesn't count. It has to fall in the tray. And that's a 5. That's a miss. Now we roll for the next Me-109. The 3rd plane, the 3rd shot we have. We also need 1. And that's a 4, so that's a miss. Now we roll for the Me-110, which is the first of 2 Me-110s. We need 1s. So here we go. Oh, that fell outside. Here we go. And that's a 5, that's a miss. And now the next Me-110. Here we go. Need a 1, another 5. Okay, we move now to the first of the Dorniers, and we need a 1 because that's a reduce Dornier. So here we go. And we roll another 1. So now Allied morale goes down to 10. So I think we're in a good pace for 5 hits on Allied morale this turn. So now we go to the Dornier 17. That has 1 or a 2 is a hit. So here we go. And we roll a 2. So Allied morale is now down to 9. And we haven't started rolling for the Stukas yet. And we have 6 of them at full strength. So here we go. With the Stukas, we need 1, 2, or 3. So right now, Allied morale is at 9. So we have a decent chance of lowering it down to 3 more levels to 6. 50% chance. But let's see. First, Stuka. The roll is a 2. Allied morale now goes down to 8. Still got 5 Stukas to go. Here we go with the second of 6 Stukas. And another 3. Allied morale goes down to 7. Now we go with the third of 6 Stukas. We are right here with the third Stuka. We need 1, 2, or 3, and another 2. Allied morale goes down to 6. It's a good thing I filmed this, otherwise nobody's going to believe me. So now to the fourth of 6 Stukas. We got these 3 Stukas left. Here we go. That fell outside. Here we go. And another 3, another hit. Allied morale is down to 5. And now the 5th of 6 Stukas. And a 1. Allied morale is down to 4. And now to the last Stuka. And a 6. Okay, so that Stuka missed. And because he rolled a 6, the Stuka is hit and reduced to its reduced side. So 5 of the 6 Stukas hit, which is actual evidence that the Stuka, of course, was the best plane of World War II. So no, I'm just a little biased. So Allied morale is now at 4. It was reduced from 12 to 4, 8 hits. And that means that we have a pretty decent chance at triggering an Allied evacuation. But before we get all excited, we have to remember the Allies have this phase, which is the Allied Command Adjustment phase, where the command level is increased by 1 for each airfield and port that is Allied control or disputed. And right now there's one port that we will not capture during the game, which is Cetia, at the extreme eastern side of the island. So it's going to increase at least to 5. But it will not increase any further if we capture the port and airfield of Iraklion, as well as the port of Sfakia. In the worst case scenario, we capture no more objectives, and the Allied command level will be increased by 4 to 8. And then we would have to roll 9 or higher to trigger evacuation. On a best case scenario for us, we capture both port and airfield at Iraklion and the port at Sfakia, and the command level will increase only by 1 to 5, which will give us an excellent chance to trigger an evacuation. But first we reduce our victory point score to 7 for the hit on 1 of the Stuka units that participated in the Allied morale attack. And now to the tactical air movement phase. We move our air units that are assigned to different sectors to their sectors, and the transports also to their landing zones. We have 2 air units committed to Kania sector and 1 to Iraklion. Both air units assigned to the Kania sector will attack the Allied forces at the port of Sfakia. And the sole air unit assigned to Iraklion sector will attack the port. And now the units that will be airdropped at Sfakia, which will be 3 units. And we will be air landing 1 unit at Iraklion airfield. Finally, we will be also air landing 2 units at Malemi airfield. Next, the amphibious movement phase. We don't have any amphibious movement in this turn, so we skip this phase. And now to the dreaded Allied reveal phase. And the only zone where there are our units and face down Allied units is in the port of Sfakia, where we have 3 ground units and 3 units about to be airdropped there. So let's see what the Allies have at Sfakia. And boy, they have an ambush marker, and they have a strong 4-strength infantry unit, and in addition, of course, 1 anti-aircraft unit. We immediately resolve the ambush marker. And what we do is, the ambush marker goes to the Allied reserve, and we draw 2 new counters from the Allied reserve and place them at Sfakia. And let's see the 2 new counters. Oh boy, another 4-strength unit and a partisan Greek unit. And the upcoming Battle of Sfakia may turn out to be nasty. Now to the Allied anti-aircraft phase. The only zone where there are Allied anti-aircraft units and air units of our own is Sfakia, one Allied Australian anti-aircraft company with a strength of 2, and it fires with that strength against every air unit committed to that space. So we have to roll for each of our bombers and each of our transports. On a roll of 1, the unit is hit and reduced. On a roll of 2, it aborts and returns to Greece. So we start with this Heinkel 111. The roll is a 3, a miss. Now, against the Junkers 88 unit. The roll is a 4, another miss. And now we roll for the 3 transports. A 1, a 5, and a 3. Only the 1 causes a hit. And that means that the transport is hit and reduced, and the unit transported is also reduced. The unit transported, the headquarters of the 3rd Regiment, is reduced, and we also reduce the transporting unit. And now the remaining anti-aircraft combat situation here at Heraklion Port. The anti-aircraft unit fires at our Junkers 88. With a 1 or a 2, the Junkers will suffer a hit or abort respectively. So we roll 1d6. The result is a 6, no effect. Now to the tactical air attack phase, and we resolve combat for all our air units attacking Allied ground units. So now we attack with our Junkers 88 unit at Heraklion Port. It has a strength of 4, so we roll 1d6. The roll is a 3, that's a hit, so we eliminate 1 unit, and that'll be the headquarters for the New Zealand division. So that unit is destroyed, and its elimination earns us 2 victory points, and the score now goes up to 10. On to the crucial battle here at Sfakia. We have 2 air units, each with a strength of 4. We will attack first with the Heinkel. We roll 1d6, and the roll is a 5. The Heinkel misses. And that's a missed opportunity right there. Next to attack is the Junkers 88 unit. We roll 1d6, and the roll is a 2. That's a hit, so we can eliminate 1 unit. But which one to eliminate in this particular situation? During the combat phase, the Allied morale will be low, so we will gain a +1 for our tactical edge. If we eliminate that Greek cadre unit, they will not have any elite unit, but then they will have those 2 4-strength units. So because the tactical edge is so important, we will eliminate the Greek cadre unit, which is an elite unit. And the elimination of the Greek unit earns 1 victory point for us. We're now at 11. And now to the airdrop and landing phase. And we land all German ground units. We have some that will be airdropped at Sfakia and others to be air-landed at Malemi and Heraklion airfields. We start with the unit to be air-landed at Heraklion airfield. Let's spread out first the units that we have in our stack there. We have 5 units at the airfield, and with the air landing unit, we now have 6 against 2 very weak Allied units. So we have a very good chance of taking control of the airfield. Now we airland the 2 units scheduled for Malemi airfield with no incident. And now to the airdrop at Sfakia, and this is not an easy proposition at all. Only a 50% chance of a successful landing unless we use one of our staff points to increase the die roll by 1. If we don't, on a 1, our unit will be reduced and scattered. And scattered means it will land in an adjacent zone, which is randomly determined. On a 2, a scattered result, and on a 3, a reduced result. And we will spend one of our 2 staff points for a +1 die roll modifier on the airborne unit drop table. So now on a 1 plus the modifier, we have a scattered result, and on a 2, a reduced result. Anything else is a safe landing. And we roll from left to right, the leftmost airborne unit. We roll 1d6, and the result is a 1 with the +1 modifier, a 2, a scatter result. And now we have to roll again to determine where it lands, and it has to be in an adjacent zone. This clear zone here is adjacent, this plain space, and this rough space is also adjacent. So we will roll 1d6. On a 1 to 3, the unit will land in the rough space. On a 4 through 6, in this plain space. We roll 1d6, and the roll is a 4. And luckily for us, that was the headquarters unit that was already reduced, so we didn't lose much in terms of firepower there. Now, we roll for the next unit, 3 + 1, 4, and it lands safely. And now the last unit to be dropped, we roll 1d6, another 3, and it drops safely at Sfakia. So we have 5 very strong units there, including 1 support unit. The Allies have 2 strong units and also an anti-aircraft unit. So the battle's going to be intense. And remember that the Allies, because they are the defenders, defending a town space, our unit's combat strengths are reduced by 1. And now to the German ground combat phase. And we have 3 combat situations, obviously the crucial battle for the port of Sfakia, and further to the east, the ongoing battle for Iraklion port and Iraklion airfield. And we will commence with the battle for the airfield. Tactical edge determination, and the rules state, or the table states, that the Allies get a +1 if this is a German airborne drop, airborne landing, or amphibious move. There was 1 unit that came in through an airborne landing, which is that mountain unit. So I'm going to give the Allies the benefit of the doubt. There's a +1 for the Allies for that aspect, a +1 also because they have an elite unit. So that is a total of +2. Now we have a +1 because the Allied command is at level 4, which is low. We also get a +1 because we have an elite unit. So we're at +2. And if we spend our sole Flieger Corps point, it would be a +3, but we will save it for the battle at Sfakia. So we have also a +2. So now we roll 1d6 for each of the sides to see who gets the tactical edge. And we roll a 6, the Allies a 1. Clearly, we get the tactical edge and we'll fire first. So we are the attackers. We're fighting for an airfield space. There's no reduction in our combat factor. So we will roll now for all of our units. And we have 2 with a strength of 4 and 3 with a strength of 3. So we got a pretty good chance of eliminating these Allied units right now. So we roll 6 dice. And after rolling for each of the units, we have 1 hit inflicted by this parachute battalion, and we have 2 abort results. So the final result is that we eliminate 1 unit and a tactical retreat for the other unit. We will eliminate the headquarters of the 4th New Zealand Brigade, which is an elite unit. And because that unit is a headquarters, we gain 2 victory points, elevating the victory point score to 13. And the remaining defending unit undergoes a tactical retreat, so we place it in the Allied reserve. And having been victorious in this combat, we can exercise a pursuit option. But a pursuit option, as I understand, according to the rules, may be into an empty space or a space containing allied units. It says nothing about a space where there are units of both sides, so I cannot reinforce the situation here at the port with the victorious units at the airfield. So in any event, we will have two of our units move here to this rough space. That'll allow us to bring more units in through the airfield in the next turn. And now to the battle at Iraklion Port. Because the defending space is a port, all our units suffer a -1 to their combat factors, except the one with a strength of 1, which can never be reduced below that. So let's determine the tactical edge. The Allies, their morale is low, so they don't get any bonus for that. They don't have any elite units either. And this was not an airborne drop, airborne landing, or amphibious move into that zone. So what's going to happen here is that they don't receive any die roll modifier. Now our forces get a +1 because we have an elite unit. We get a +1 because the Allies are low in morale. And we can get a +1 if we spend our last Flieger Corps point, but we won't use it for this battle. So we're at +2. We got a pretty good chance to win the tactical edge. So now we roll 1d6 for each side. We roll a 3, the Allies a 1. We clearly have the tactical edge. Now we would fire first our support units, but we have none. So now the Allies fire their anti-aircraft company. We roll 1d6. And the roll is a 1. We have to take a hit. And we flip our mountain unit to its reduced side. And we lose a victory point, so we're now at 12. And now we roll for our maneuver units, and we have a -1 to their combat factors. We roll 1d6 for each of them. And this is just woeful bad luck here. Not a single tactical retreat nor hit result. All misses. Now the New Zealand Infantry Battalion fires 1d6, and the roll is a 5, and that's a miss. Now to the crucial Battle of Sfakia, but let's not get all excited. We're attacking a town hex, so the combat strengths of all our units are reduced by 1. Let's go to the tactical edge determination. There was an airdrop here this turn, so the Allies get a +1 to the tactical edge determination die roll. They don't have any elite units, so it's a total of +1. Now we have an elite unit, that's a +1. Allied morale is low, that's a +2, and we can use our Flieger Corps staff point for a +3, and we will do so. So that's our last Flieger Corps staff point. So barring some extreme bad luck situation, we should prevail in this tactical edge determination. We roll 1d6 for each side. We roll a 4, the Allies a 5, but with the tactical determination bonuses, we win the tactical edge determination 7-6. So we fire first with our support units. We only have 1, this heavy weapons unit. We roll 1d6, and we need 3 or less for any adverse result against the ally. So we roll 1d6. The roll is a 3, equal to the unit's modified combat factor. That's a tactical retreat, so we pick 1 unit to be retreated that is placed in the Allied reserves. So the decision is, do we take one of those strong 4-strength units to be retreated, or we take out the anti-aircraft company, which is about to fire next. Boy, tough decisions here. That anti-aircraft unit only has a 33% chance of inflicting a loss as compared to the other units, but it fires now. And on the other hand, all of our maneuver units would fire right after our unit, our support unit, if we eliminate the anti-aircraft unit, if we retreat it, and we will retreat the anti-aircraft unit. So it goes to the reserve. And now the maneuver units fire. We fire first, and we fire with these units, and we will go one by one, given the importance of this attack. We go with the leftmost battalion. We need 3 or less. And the roll is a 3, so we conduct tactical retreat, one of the Allied units, and it'll be this unit with a strength of 4 to the Allied reserves. Now we fire with the next parachute battalion. We roll 1d6, and this time the result is a 5, and we miss. So right now we won't be able to eliminate all 3 Allied units. But we continue with resolving the combat situation. Now we roll for the elite unit, 1d6. The result is a 1, and we will eliminate the 4-strength British infantry unit. And that gives us a victory point. And we're now at 13. And we roll for our last parachute battalion, 1d6. The roll is a 4, but the strength of the battalion has been adjusted by a -1 because we're attacking into a town hex. So that is a miss. And now the Allies fire. And we roll for the Australian infantry battalion, 1d6. And the result is a 1. We suffer a hit. And we will reduce this parachute battalion. And with that hit, we lose 2 strength points each time a parachute unit is reduced, so we're now down to 11. And now the Greek partisan unit fires. It needs a 1 to cause a tactical retreat. But the roll is a 3, and that's a miss. And so the battle rages on at the port of Sfakia. And now to the much maligned Allied Middle East command phase. Luckily for us, Allied morale is low, so there will only be 1 die roll on the Middle East command events table. And given the potential for a devastating die roll here, we will film it live. So here we go. We roll 2d6, and the roll is a 6. Reserves released. And we roll 1 die. Pick that number of units from the Allied reserve display, and for each released unit we check the random locations table for the placement zone. So now we roll 1 die to see to see the number of units that will be released. 6 units. So we pick 6 units from the Allied reserves. Pick them. And 6. Now we roll 6 times to see where they are placed. If the location is one that has our units, then that Allied unit goes back to the cup. So we roll 1d6 for the location of the units, starting with the first unit. The roll is a 9. Heraklion Airfield, and we control Heraklion Airfield, so this unit goes back to the cup. Next unit, roll 2d6, a 7, Suda, and we also control Suda port, so that unit goes back into the reserves. Third unit, roll 2d6, the roll is a 9, again Heraklion Airfield, which is in our control. We're lucky they're not apparently going to come in. We have a lot of the objectives in our control. Fourth unit to be rolled. This time it is a 5 at Sfakia. Boy, that's a place that we didn't want any reinforcements. So we're going to place this unit in Sfakia, and we will reveal it during the counterattack phase. So let's get back to rolling for the next 2 units, and we roll now for the 5th unit. Oh, gotta roll again because the die fell out. Here we go. 8 Retimo airfield, that is under our control, so that unit goes back to the draw cup. And the last unit to be rolled for a 10, Retimo town, also under our control. So only one unit came in, but at a crucial place. And now we go to the Allied counterattack phase. So here's another chance of eliminating Allied units when they counterattack. So not all is lost yet. And we have counterattacks obviously at Sfakia, and let's flip that face-down unit to see what it is. A Greek battalion with a strength of 2. We also have a counterattack situation at Iraklion port. We will start with this battle resolution. The Allies have no tactical edge determination die roll modifier. Their morale is low, they have no elite units, and this is not a German airdrop or airborne landing there. We have a +1 because we have an elite unit, and also we get a +1 because Allied morale is low. We have no staff points available to use anyway, so we get a +2. So we roll 1d6 for each side. We roll a 4 plus 2, 6, and the Allies roll a 6, so we have a tie. But in cases of ties, when attacking, which is what the Allies are doing, into a town space, in cases of ties, the defender has the tactical advantage. So we get the tactical advantage this time when we will fire first. But we have no support units, so the Allies have 1, the anti-aircraft unit, and they fire with that unit 1d6. And the Allies roll a 1, so that's 1 hit. And we will eliminate the already reduced Mountain Infantry Battalion. And we lose 2 victory points, lowering our score from 11 to 9. But now our maneuver units fire, and they fire at full strength, so we roll 1d6 for each of our units. Starting with the headquarters. It rolls a 6 and misses. Next, the 2nd Airborne Battalion from top to bottom. And it also rolls a 6. And now the last Infantry Battalion, and it rolls a 1, so we eliminate 1 unit, and that will be the New Zealand Infantry Battalion. And with the elimination of the unit, our victory point score goes up 1 point from 9 to 10. And Iraklion port is still being disputed. Now to the Allied counterattack at Sfakia. For the Allies, tactical edge determination, they have no positive die roll modifiers. We get a +1 because we have an elite unit, and a +1 because Allied morale is low. For a total +2 die roll modifier, we roll 1d6 for both sides. And this time we easily win the tactical edge determination. Support units fire first. We have our heavy weapons battalion here, so we roll 1d6, and we are defending, so 4 or less will have an effect. The roll is a 2, so we eliminate 1 unit, and it will be, obviously, the Australian infantry unit. And with that unit eliminated, the victory point score jumps now to 11. Now we roll for each of our maneuver units, and we have a pretty good chance of eliminating both Allied units now. So a 1, 2 3s, and a 6. We have 2 hits and 1 tactical retreat result. The Greek infantry unit is eliminated with 1 of the 2 hits, and the Greek unit, although eliminated, does not count for victory point purposes and is simply placed in the Allied reserve. That means it can return back into the game, but we have occupied and control now the port of Sfakia. With the elimination of the Greek infantry unit, victory point score goes up to 12. That's the end of the Allied counterattack phase. There's still battles raging on at Iraklion port, And we have control now of Heraklion Airfield and the port of Sfakia. Now to the Allied Command Adjustment Phase, and we increase the Allied Command level by 1 for each airfield and port that is Allied control or disputed. And right now the Allies are only disputing the port of Heraklion. So that's a +1, and obviously the Allies still control the port of Sitia in the Lasithi region. So Allied morale is increased by 2, and it is now at 6. And now finally the Allied evacuation check phase. And we have to roll 2d6. If the result is higher than the Allied command level, which is 6, evacuation is triggered. So stay tuned for the next episode in 3 weeks from now. I'm just kidding. We're going to roll for it right now. And we're going to do a live roll. I'm not even going to pause the camera now. I'll move the camera. Here, you see the level. It is 6. Here we have our tray, which has generally given us some luck. And we will roll 2d6s to see if we can trigger an evacuation. Here we go. Let me stand up for this one, see if I'll get better luck. We have 2d6s. Here we go, folks. And the roll is 4. Oh, let me pause to swear in Spanish a little bit. Oh man. So let's go to phase 18 after failing that die roll. And now we have, obviously, the Allied evacuation execution phase does not apply. There was no evacuation. And the end of turn phase. So this is the end of turn 6. No evacuation. We have 12 victory points. Now we're doing it right with the tally. I mean, we will have at the end of the game more. But if we don't trigger an evacuation in turn 7, there's no way of winning this game. So as things stand, once again, in Kanya we control all objectives there. Malemi Airfield and the ports of Kisamos, Kanya, Suda, and more recently Sfakia. And we have Retimo. Both objectives there under our control, and surprisingly, one anti-aircraft company is holding out at the port of Heraklion, which prevented us from obtaining that objective, but we would have lost anyway if not obtained the opportunity of triggering an evacuation because we rolled 4. So that is the situation. And I guess you can tell I'm enjoying this game immensely. I recommend this game. I like this game very much. It's the first time I play a game like this. I've read that the designer, Joe Miranda, is working on a game on a hypothetical invasion of Cuba in the 60s using this system. So you can be sure, you can count me in. I'm gonna probably buy that game as soon as it comes out. So stay tuned for the last turn of Crete 1941, Operation, what's the name of this? Operation Mercury. This is Stuka Joe signing off for now. Thanks for watching.